Hello there, welcome back. Today I'm doing another clutch of films that I don't think would survive a video on their own, but I'd like to chat about them briefly. So you've got some blockbusters and you've got some more indie films I've just got with that were released earlier in the year. So here we go. So I'll start with the blockbusters. So we've got F1, which is a new Brad Pitt starring film from Joseph Kosinski, who did Top Gun Maverick, Oblivion, Tron Legacy. He's done a bunch of films. I still think his best one is the one he did with the fireman, whose name I can never remember. But it's the one with Josh Brolin. The fireman stuck in this wildfire. It's really good, and it's the least effects heavy of any films, and it's, to me, the best one. It's simple. He got a lot of praise for Top Gun Maverick, which is a good film. This is his follow-up where they brought in the producer and the writer of Top Gun Maverick to do racing. They brought in Brad Pitt. Now, Brad Pitt's a bit of a motorhead, which has come across when he's doing the publicity for this film. He loves all this stuff. And so they just all combined to do this F1 movie. There's been some racing movies recently. There was Gran Turismo, which I liked better than this film. It's hokier than this film, but it actually works better as a film because it's shorter for start. There was Ford vs Ferrari, which is probably the best of the racing films in the sense of for entertainment value and for just artistic merit of it tells the story simply and it gets the point across. My favourite is Ferrari, the Michael Mann film that not everyone loved actually, but a lot of people liked, and it's because it's a historical film about the making of Ferrari building up during a crisis time. But it's more about Ferrari than the racing, so that's why you kind of, it's part of the new racing thing, but not quite. It's weird where it fits in. But this one is about racing, about racers, which is the convention you get. Is like they may like talking about who develops the cars and why they develop the cars, but they really want to put you in the racers. I mean, that's what Ford vs Ferrari managed to do, is that they had both, because you'd the Christian Bale character who's helping design the car or redesign the car, while he's also the driver. And you kind of like having a character who's in control. I mean, the thing about Ferrari was he was already not a driver by the time the film started, so he wasn't a race car driver, so your lead character was not in the races, which kind of takes away some of the tension, at least for some audiences. So F1 is with Brad Pitt, is this washed up driver who was meant to be something in the 90s. You get shots of Brad Pitt in the 90s, Brad Pitt with the weird hair he used to have. I mean, you forget Brad Pitt did, in the early 90s, before he became well known and before he developed fashion sense, he had horrible hair. He really did. He had extensively horrible hair, which they bring back in this film, and it looks terrible. It's like, it's just long, and he looks like a model, and it's just like, oh god. They've brought back the Brad Pitt no one wants to remember. And so he's a guy who was meant to be something he wasn't. He crashed out, he got injured, couldn't drive anymore, so he ended up becoming a professional gambler for a while. Now he's on the he's had a few divorces. He's on the now lives in a van, but still does racing for different teams. And so he's the guy that can bring in if they need a driver in the last minute to do something, because he can drive anything. That typical like cliche of the loner guy who wanders into town and is great at everything, which they loved in westerns, and this is based on a western for cars. He has to come and clean up the town. In this case, it's the F1 racing. So he has to come in and help this new racer played by Damon Idris, and he's working this team who the lead driver has quit halfway through the season. The team's going down. If the team doesn't, it's been losing for years, and if it doesn't actually get an F1 win this year, the actual legally the team can be put up for sale. So the owner does not want that. Javier Bardem plays the owner, and he does not want that. He's got a board he has to deal with, and a lot of them hate him at this point. And there's this whole corporate thing going on in the background that's really obvious, and you know who's doing what pretty quick. So they bring in Brad Pitt to teach them what they're doing wrong in the car, of course, because all these geniuses can't work out what a driver really needs. Which is, it's that thing, is like, yeah, drivers will input in the car, like saying this maybe don't work, but they make it almost like look like he epically understands the cars the way they never could, and it's just like, okay, so you're making some of your characters look like idiots. But it is basically the Western formula. But it's 2.5 hours long, and it doesn't need to be 2.5 hours long. It's a schlocky film dressed up to be a prestige film. The pleasures are schlock pleasures of a race car film. And it's fun when it's doing the cliches. It's fun when Brad Pitt and the young guys annoying each other. It's fun when you get the racing scenes. But the racing scenes, there's too many of them and they're not long enough. And I think some of that's to do with how much time they had in the racing circuit when they were filming. But you get a feel the race starts and stops, and it's like you don't really build it up the same way in other films. You feel more of a build up to the race or during the race. This one, it is just stop, and it just feels kind of enjoyable, but not like dramatically satisfying all the time. At least for me. And most people I know have seen it have been like, it's okay. And yeah, that's the thing. It's okay. It should have been better. Just the script's just not fully there. They've tried to make it more prestige than it needs to be. They've extended the running time way longer than it needs to be. It makes the points about 3 times when it needs to only make it once. It's just that kind of feeling of self-importance. Like we're doing this important driving race film, and it's like, well, actually, all the other ones are better. Like, Gran Turismo's better. Ford vs Ferrari's better. Ferrari's better. But it's enjoyable. But it's worth seeing the big screen for the races. But the rest of the stuff is things you'd want to fast forward through. You know, it's just okay. Right, next we have Jurassic World Rebirth, which I liked a lot better than F1 because it knows it's schlock. It's schlock and it knows it. It's written by Gareth Edwards, who did the first Godzilla, American Godzilla. He did Rogue One. He did The Creator and Monsters. So he goes back and forward from blockbuster to his own films. So it's a balance where basically you make a hit for the studios, then they'll give you money to do your film. And the 2 films he's made, like Monsters and The Creator, I really like. And his more commercial films like Rogue One and Godzilla, I really like. And this one I really like. It is the schlockiest film he's ever made, by a mile. But that's not a bad thing. Basically, they go back to an island. They kind of try and ignore the last 3 films as much as possible. Thankfully, because those 3 films are not good. So this is a return to form. This is the best I think the series has been since the 90s. And it's like, it understands, you want to go and see dinosaurs, and that's it. We'll give you 10 minutes to start to explain the plot, and then we'll go and hunt these dinosaurs they'll try to get the blood samples from dinosaurs, because there's something in the blood that if they get the blood, it can help them create this drug for heart disease. And it's just, and because dinosaurs have kind of died out in the world, they're only basically in this range of islands now that are on the equator, because the temperatures in the rest of the world are too cold for them. They really need certain temperatures, and that which is why the part was originally set in the equator, because that's the only place that could hold them. So they go to one island which used to be a research island, and so there's a few mutations in there. There's some people dislike the idea of those mutations. They did it on 2 of the last 3 films. I'm okay with it, especially it's done better here than it has been before. And it's just they're on an island. There's a couple of mutations that are a bit dangerous. The rest of the time, it's just normal dinosaurs. And if they get on an island, they basically have to hunt one in the sea, so you get a Jaws homage. There's one, a flying bird dinosaur they need to get the blood from, which is they can go to the nest and get it from one of the eggs. And there's one which was just one of the more peaceful dinosaurs that are just walking around in herds, which is the more inspiring one. And in between, then they have to avoid getting killed by other dinosaurs who are much more predatory and dangerous. Then they have to get off the island. Because the boat crashed when it came, so they have to find another way off the island where they're trapped. So everything's kind of like, you've seen it before. But it's done by people who understand, you've seen it before, what can we do is fun. So they have the chase in the water to get the first dinosaur sample. So it basically means you don't get to the island for about 40 minutes. But you get some really cool action scenes on the water. Then you also have the teams split up, so you've got two different people going through the island. So you've got the experts on one side, and you've got this family who are travelling along the equator on a boat and didn't realise how close they were to the dinosaurs. They get attacked, so they're on the boat when they try to get the samples. They get trapped on the island, and they go one way and the other team goes the other way. So you go back and forth between them to see them getting chased by dinosaurs. So it gives them more opportunity to have threats. And they basically tag team the film. And it's fun. They bring in a sequence from the book, the first book that was never done, which is dinosaurs attacking a raft. They finally get to do that, and it's one of the best scenes in the film. They hunting down the water dinosaurs is wonderful. There's a good sequence on side of a mountain to try to get to the flying dinosaurs. Some of the CGI there is not as great as the rest of the film, but it works. It's fine. It's enjoyable, and you can tell the film was shot fast because it started late, like early last year. It was written pretty quickly and then was in production fast and was finished fast. And sometimes I think maybe they could have spent a bit more time in effects. But that's also the fact that it was so done so fast meant they had an idea, they did it, and they shot it almost like a B-movie with a budget. But the mechanics were B-movie mechanics. Is we're going to do this fast and we're doing this rough and we're going to do it as fun as possible. And that's what comes across in the film. Good and bad, it's a rough little B-movie set in Jurassic World Park. And it works. If you like those kind of movies. I had a blast with this one. I really enjoyed it. Some people didn't. But it's like, I don't get it. It's like, after you've seen the last 3 films, which were terrible, how can you not like this? This is like, at least this is made by a director who knows what he's doing, who can shoot tension, who can shoot dinosaurs, who shoot creatures, who understands pacing. You know, I just don't get it, but there we go. Some people didn't like it, but I did. So now we're going on to the 3 lower budget films that have been out the last few months that I've seen. You've got Novocaine, which is actually 2 Jack Quaid films here. Novocaine and Companion. Novocaine's the weakest of the 2 for me, I think. Mainly because the first third is terrible. First third is to try to do the romance thing, but it's not well written. So no matter how much the actors are trying, it's not particularly well written. And basically once the film gets into the heist going wrong and Jack Quaid, playing this guy who cannot feel pain, his pain centers are gone, so it makes it dangerous for him in life. So the first third's setting that up and also setting up the romance with a co-worker, doing all this stuff, setting it up so that when she gets kidnapped, when they're trying to escape from the bank, then basically he's a easy chaser. So the romance is kind of a set up for the rest of the film, which works for the plot element, but you have to get through those scenes. And it's just the scenes are written and directed in a kind of schmaltzy way that does not get you involved, does not get me involved. Once you're into the chase, him chasing down these bank robbers, and he's knocking them off one by one as he finds close to where they are, and you have all these jokes about how he can't feel pain and how it comes to his advantage. He can't feel third degree burns and things like that. It becomes a lot more fun, much more inventive. It's still never brilliantly written, but it's more inventive in the plot scenarios, and the actors get by bringing a lot of energy to it. It's like a thing you can feel that some of the but probably the actors sometimes would find ways to say things that are different than the script, because it feels like the script feels awkward. So you feel the actors or directors were invent some of the dialogue as on the go. It just is one of those films that I just wish it did another draft or two of the script to lock down certain things that need locked down, because it wasn't quite there yet. But it's enjoyable trash. That's it. It's a B movie. It's enjoyable trash. It got really good reviews, but I think the reviews have been a bit kind. I think they were been too enthusiastic because it had some pulp energy to it, and I think they were a bit more forgiving of the stuff that didn't work. Now we have Companion, which is better. It's basically like a schlock version of Ex Machina. That's the best way to put it. And it has an overdone metaphor for of relationship problems, basically using technology and using a sci-fi thriller. So basically, in this world now, you can hire companions for you. If you're a lonely human, you hire companions who are robots, but they can be your companion. They look like a person. They fulfill your wants, desires, and they can be a companion for you. And during this time, Jack Quaid plays a guy who decides to use his companion to pull off a heist against this rich guy with a friend. And the whole plot unravels as first they're just going to this, without knowing the plot, it's just like a couple going to this Hollywood treat for the weekend. And then you find out that the person in charge is rich. Then you find out that there's weird tensions going on. Then what you suspect is a robot, which is this young woman who is Jack Quaid's companion, and she kills the host, much to their delight, because they planned this. And then she's starting to develop intelligence, develop self-will, so she's much harder to deal with. Suddenly she realises that she has been controlled by this sociopath, and she has to fight back, otherwise she'll get blamed for everything. And it's what happens throughout that, and the change in the relationship between her and Jack Quaid as she realises what he's really like. And it's a whole metaphor for finding out your boyfriend's a lunatic and is a sicko and things. The thriller elements work better than the relationship elements. The relationship elements would be fine if they were just left to be there, but they had to be commented on, which is the problem. It's like you don't have to comment on everything. You can actually let people interpret it themselves without having to say, "Oh, by the way, this means this." Just in case you're stupid, this means this. So, which sometimes you need to say that stuff, but if you're actually just pointing at the obvious, no, you don't need to say that stuff. Exposition should be for things that you don't need to say. No, exposition should be for stuff you have to explain. You should not use it for things you don't need to explain that people actually can interpret. So it's an annoying film in that way, and it feels like a bit smug. And especially there's another film out there that's actually a better version of it. kind of annoying. So yeah, it's still enjoyable, but it is the better of the two Jack Quaid films. But the thing is, it's just every so often it has to tell you what it means. It has to explain its metaphors. And that just gets on my nerves. So that's a big problem for it. But it's still fun. Now we have Diablo, which is a new Scott Adkins film. I enjoy Scott Adkins films. He's teamed up with the team who did Fist of Condor. for this one. Marco somebody's the lead actor, his name I never remember. He's been in Scott Adkins films before, he's been in a bunch of films. I just can never remember his name. This one's not top level Adkins, but it's still enjoyable. The problem is it's like a 90-minute film that has like 70 minutes worth of material, and you have to add stuff on, which is this. Basically, Adkins plays this guy who's in jail. You get to jail, and he has to go and kidnap his daughter from a drug baron. She doesn't know he's his daughter yet because his ex, the daughter thinks her father is the drug baron, and he's not. And his ex was basically held prisoner, and she basically told him, once you get out of here, because you're set up to go into jail in the first place, once you get out, you have to get her out there. So she's dead by the time the film starts, and basically Adkins kidnaps his daughter, and then he has to try and explain to her what actually happened. She doesn't believe him, of course. At a certain point, so basically the drug guy who is old pal Adkins as well, sends up all his men to try and stop him and try and get him. There's lots of fights here, but there's also this psychopath who's also has worked before for the villain, is also on the case trying to find her for the reward, because there is a reward out for her. And basically at a certain point, he wants revenge on the father, essentially. And this guy's a sicko. He will kill people that don't deserve it quite easily, but happily. He'll kill people who just essentially annoy him. He's a total psycho. And he's basically a human Terminator, is the best way to put it. And he starts hunting them down, and the drug people are hunting them down, so Adkins has to deal with two lots of threats, and a daughter who doesn't trust him. And it's a fun movie, it's just that the father-daughter relationship doesn't quite work. It needed another draft or two just to... It's not the actor's fault, it just needed a bit more work, because it was like, sometimes the dialogue's a bit obvious, and sometimes the scene just needs a bit more working out to actually make it more believable and more emotional the way they want it to be. It just feels like they haven't quite got it yet, and they started production, and so the film was working whenever the villain was there, whenever they were dealing with the actions of the criminal world and all those problems. It was just, it seems like they stop and talk and get from A to B. It felt like there were still issues with the dialogue and needed a bit more time. But it's still a blast, though. The action scenes really make it worthwhile, and there's tons of them. And it's low budget, but everyone's there for the film, so it really is enjoyable. It's just like, there's 20 minutes in it that needed work. But that's the way it goes. I mean, it's like, with low budget films, sometimes you get that and you still enjoy the film. So, yeah, I still had loads of fun. Now we finally go to the last two, which are the two streaming movies. So one's from Apple and one's from Prime. Now, actually, F1 was also an Apple film, but was released in cinema. Fountain of Youth was not released in cinema. Fountain of Youth was a big budget film released straight to streaming. Directed by Guy Ritchie, stars John Krasinski and Natalie Portman and a bunch of other actors. And it's a search for the Fountain of Youth. And it's full of things you've seen before. This film is basically so that there, so that there, so that there, so that there. And it also has John Krasinski as the lead doing an Indiana Jones thing, and he's not that kind of actor. Now, he does it as well as he can, and he is an enjoyable actor to watch, but it's... I don't think he finds it easy to play people who are that flippant. And the character he's playing is kind of annoying at times. So he's kind of miscast, but he does well enough with the part once it's been miscast to make it bearable. Natalie Portman as well. She's not a great part, but she's trying to make it work. Her and Krasinski's brother and sister. That's probably the best part, of the sense of they understand that dynamic so they can play it, but the characters themselves have issues. But mainly the script's a problem. Guy Ritchie directs and he's having fun with the scenes, but there's lots of scenes where there's no real reason for the scene to be happening beyond me to do a caper scene, and there's not much excitement. It's like you're going through the mechanics of everything, and you're doing this and that, and there's actual sequence where they lift a ship up that is very Race to Titanic, and it's like, well, what a metaphor for this film, because this film also has a feeling of a film that shouldn't have been made, just like Race to Titanic. Because the script's just very generic. The villain's obvious from the start. The guys are chasing them. You know from the start, basically, that they're not the villains. Like, your heroes are doing something that's not particularly good. They're doing a caper, but whenever there's a action sequence, you're like, I think in some ways I should be in the villain side. Which kind of just messes with the dynamics, and also the set pieces aren't that great either to make you forget about them. So you kind of know you're on the side of the villains, ultimately. I mean that's revealed to the lead characters. It's like, well, how didn't you figure this out? It was kind of obvious. So there's the whole imbalance of the script just gets in the way. And, you know, just the film is just there. So even though there's some good scenes, there's a child character in it who's not annoying, who's actually Portman's son in the film. And he's actually fairly smart. He's a musician. And he's just a kid, rather than making him a genius. He's just a kid. He spots one clue because he's done in music and he's a musician. But the rest of the time, he's just a kid. Which is nice. They don't try and make the kid some sort of uber genius or anything, but try and make him too quirky. Just a kid. So that kind of stuff works. This is all the kind of professional things like people would do in a film work. It's just the premise is wrong. The script's just wrong. It's like, this should not have been made. This should have just been like, this doesn't work. We need to replan this. So, yeah, it's okay, but it's a one-watch film. It's like, I can't imagine anyone watching this and saying, I need to go and watch this again. It's just like a blah film. People get excited by the names involved, and then when they saw the film, it was like, there's just nothing here. And the film didn't get great reviews. I think anyone who watched it was like, it's okay-ish. It's that kind of film. Finally, we have Heads of State, which is a much better version of this, where it is a straight-to-streaming mega budget film with stars, because there's a whole genre of these now where they hire A-list stars or B-list stars to be in these streaming movies. They pay them a lot of money, and the movies come out, and it's like cinema in your home. And it's like, well, no, it's not. If I was in cinema, I'd go to the cinema. I did watch both of these films on projector to try and see if try and get the cinematic experience. But even then, it's like, yeah, these are kind of middling. These are middling bombs. But Heads of State would have worked a lot better, because one, it does not look as half as expensive as Fountain of Youth, and two, they actually have well cast leads who get through a lot of the problems with the script, and they have a director who understands the script and its limitations, and who has a blast whenever he has a chance to do an action scene. So, as the action ramps up, you're having a lot of entertainment with the fact that the director's having fun, and the actors are having fun. And the whole idea of, it's John Cena and Idris Elba who are the mismatched heads of state, which are the American President, British Prime Minister. Both of them are on Air Force One when it gets attacked. The land in Eastern Europe, they have to get out of enemy areas before they can deal with the idea of who attacked and why they attacked them. It has the most obvious villain ever. You know who the villain is as soon as they show up. And there's all this thing of trying to make it look as if it could be someone else, and it's not. And you just go, not particularly great script writing. But it doesn't need it though. I mean, it's just like there's like 20 minutes of plot where you're thinking, you don't need any of this stuff. No one cares. But the rest of it was fun. And they actually have a fun plot idea, which is the plot's basically to destroy NATO, which Trump's trying to do. And they go through all these things to destroy NATO, but it's very cheesy how they do it, and it's very obvious. But again, because it's just a B-movie script, the director and the actors lead into the character stuff and the action stuff, so the script itself is less important, the actual story is less important than watching these two actors interact and annoy the hell at each other. Which is a lot of fun, because Elba and Cena were together on the Suicide Squad, where James Gunn did, and they have a very good chemistry. They're very good at annoying each other on screen. And that continues here because they really annoy each other. Cena's the American president who's just in his job, and he's too optimistic and he's too full of himself, and he wants to be liked. Well, Elba's the guy who's been in the job for 6 years. He's been worn down, he's been trashed, and he's just grumpy. And grumpy Idris Elba is always fun to see in something. He's very good at grumpy. Well, not losing the fact that you quite like the guy, but he still can be really grumpy. And it's just watching them basically try and survive together, where Elba's the kind of more practical one, who was a soldier, who knows how to fight. So he does handle most of the fighting, and Cena just messes up most of the time. Because he's a movie star. He was a movie star before he became president, and he could do the movie star looks, and he could do all the action. But he can't actually, he's not really a fighter in real life. Elba's a fighter in real life, in the film, at least. And that dynamic works. They get into lots of fights with different people, and it allows the director to have lots of fun stuff throughout the film. The ex of Elba comes back into, she's a spy who you thought was killed in the first bit of the movie, even though you knew instantly she wasn't dead because you'd seen the trailers and she was in most of the movie, the trailers. So she comes back and she's like the third wheel, trying to keep these two from arguing and try to work out the plot. It's a very obvious plot, but it just works. It's silly, but it works. And it's the one. I mean, I would never rewatch Fountain of Youth, but I might rewatch Head of State in a couple of years when I'm feeling like I want to watch it again. It's that kind of film where it's like a 3-star film, but it's an enjoyable 3-star film. You know, the action scenes and the bickering make it, and the rest of the stuff you can completely ignore because it's like 101 script writing where the actual premise is like just not developed very well. But again, you get lots of fun action scenes. So that's the stuff I've seen recently. I plan to see Superman soon, so expect that video, unless all hell breaks loose and I don't see it. But that's unlikely. So I hope you enjoyed this. I'll be back again soon with some more. So that's me for now. Right, bye.